Happy Friday, everybody. It's Jim, it's Matt. It is Final Four weekend for both the men's and the women's. And Matthew, I don't know if you know this, but little known fact that this is the tallest men's Final Four in the history of college basketball.
Yeah, had no idea that was a thing, but that's interesting, and I think it's telling because a lot was made this season, and more specifically about Arizona and Michigan, um, is that their size throughout this entire
Mm-hmm.
tournament, throughout the season, Arizona and Michigan, that was kind of their defining characteristic, just how big they were. Obviously, their depth has a lot to do, and these guys are talented, but
Sure.
their size all the way through. Yaxel, obviously, for Michigan, just how big he is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, really playing more of that forward position. So it's something that's really carried them through. It's something that, you go over to UConn and their starting point guard, who transferred in, Silas Demery Jr., he's 6'5". Like,
Yeah.
they're not lacking size at any position. The young man who made the shot, which I can't remember his name right off the top of my head for UConn,
Mm-hmm.
he's probably their shortest starter, and he plays two guard.
Right.
So really in the other positions, starting point guard, from the three down, because Caravan plays the three, and he's probably what 6'9". I
Yeah.
mean, they're built with size too. And then Illinois, I mean, I can't sit here and tell you that I know as much about Illinois as I do
Mm-hmm.
the other three teams,
Mm-hmm.
but what I do know is that in order for them to have been competitive and made it to this point, is that
Mm-hmm.
it, and obviously with the stat as well, but they had to have the same kind of size. Otherwise, you're not going to compete with Michigan. You're not going to compete with Michigan State. You're not going to compete with UCLA. Those teams at the top of the Big Ten, and a
Mm-hmm.
conference that really proved out to be the best in college basketball this year with the
Mm-hmm.
amount of teams they were able to get to the Sweet 16.
Right. You know, we're talking about height. Michigan. Here's Michigan's center, Ademara, 7'3", 255. Yellow Luxembourg, who is the power forward, he's a 6'8", 240 guy.
Mm-hmm.
We're not talking about little boys here. We are definitely talking about some men here. These guys are really big.
Yeah.
And then you've got um, for Arizona, Krivas, who's 7'2", and KL Pete, who's 6'8".
Yeah.
And so the average on both of those teams is 6'6".
Yeah. I mean, that's ridiculous because
Mm-hmm.
generally your guards are going to prove out and kind of
Mm-hmm.
average stuff out. Like,
Right.
especially, that not everybody has a 7 foot center. I know that
Yep.
that's the mold that you want to recruit in. You want a guy that's about 7 feet, really
Mm-hmm.
6'10" at this point, starts to feel more like a power forward in
Mm-hmm.
today's game. And it's something where now your centers are bigger, and to go along with that, they've moved to bigger guards as well. You mentioned
Mm-hmm.
size, Emery, but they want size at that guard position because it helps a lot in opening up some passing lanes.
Well, the other thing too is both Michigan and Arizona's uh, claim to fame at this point during this tournament and during the season has been there isn't anybody can out rebound.
Hmm. Yeah,
You're going to get one shot. Okay, that's it. You're not going to you're not going to get. But here's the other thing that I think, and it goes back to even the days of Shaq and Charles Barkley and that, as we leaf down the old SEC path, and that is that these guys are built. I mean, they are just you cannot move them. Okay,
yeah,
and that's what was Chuck and Shaquille. I mean, if you actually saw Shaquille, you may have in person. I've never seen a bigger human being in my life.
yeah. I've never seen Shaq in person. The probably best comparison is during his time at Georgia. Darnell Washington
Uh-huh.
was 6'8" and played tight end. Now he might as
Mhm.
well have been an offensive
Sure.
tackle with how he was built out.
Mhm.
And there was one time that I just saw him out in public, and
Mhm.
kind of like I didn't like go up to him, but I was kind of doing like a
Mhm.
size comparison in my
Right.
mind, and it registers like 6'8". You see it in a room, and it's
Right.
something that draws attention to your eye.
100%. And the other thing, and Charles wasn't, I mean, Charles was maybe 6'4", 6'5", okay, in that tweener situation.
Hmm.
But Chuck's lower body, I mean, you would have to climb over him to get to the ball.
Yeah.
And there's others. Rick Mahorn, of course, comes to mind. But to have four teams, all of whom are really long, and even though the guard play is, as you said earlier, uh, amazing, they're not small guards either.
No, and it's something where now you look back and you think about, and maybe I'm misremembering this here, but like think about the one seed that got knocked out in Florida. What they had shorter guards,
Hmm.
relatively speaking, and then you looked at their bigs, and their bigs were like they obviously had the size, but
Yeah.
Alex Condon for his size, he's not built the same
No.
underneath necessarily in terms of the physicality, right?
Mhm. Right.
So that's something that won out for Michigan and Arizona. It's not something that won out for Florida. It's not something that won out for Duke. Really, you
No.
go back to them; they had some smaller guards. Now they were a little bit, I would say, probably a little bit more sturdy in Isaiah Evans,
Hmm.
and Caden Boozer, but still they suffered in terms of the size comparison compared to the other
Hmm.
two one seeds that are playing in the Final Four.
For sure. It was just crazy. And I mean, when you've got guys that that they're only going to get one shot, that definitely helps. And that was really what got these four teams their athleticism, because these bigs aren't bad either. I mean, these bigs
No,
can play out of the key. They don't have to play in the paint. They can get out of the paint and still beat the hell out of you. So I mean, there was one situation where Mara, the kid we talked about earlier, blocked four shots in the same sequence.
yeah,
It's it's like, wait a minute. It's like, get away from me with that basketball. You're not going to get it in the basket.
yeah, the size along with the build, and then if you can add hand-eye coordination in there, I
Yeah.
mean, it's going to be tough to beat that in college basketball in terms of putting that guy in the middle and just having him be a real stopper, which Michigan has. I mean, you go back to that Alabama game in the
Hmm.
Elite Eight, and Nate Oates came into it. He said, "We know we're going to get out rebounded. It's just by how much. Like
Hmm.
it can't be a a canyon-sized gap between the
Hmm.
two of us in terms of our rebounding." And you go back and you look at the stats and you look at what they did in the first half rebounding and where the
Hmm.
score was against Michigan. They kept it a nice close game.
Right.
Really thought they were going to have a chance down the stretch run.
Right.
Michigan comes out in the second half and they out rebound them by 20 in the second
Hmm.
half, if I remember correctly. And
In
so
that
that's where you got that gap, and that's where they were able to create their separation.
market.
It was on the boards with their size. So it's something that really won out for them throughout the entirety was their ability to rebound. Obviously, you've got to be able to defend and score, but rebounding can steal. Like one, it can steal you possessions on the offensive end, give you good
Hmm.
looks for three. But on the other end, when you know every time down they're getting one shot at this thing,
Hmm.
that can do so much for you as a team in
Hmm.
terms of defense and really not having to like run after second chance opportunities.
Right, for sure. Just so you know, folks, this weekend, Saturday night, 6 o'clock, TBS, TNT, and True TV. It'll be Illinois and Connecticut. That's kicks off the night. Iron Eagle, Rafferty, and Grant Hill on the call. There's going to be an altar cast, which can be seen on True TV, and that is Adam LaFoe, Chris Webber, Jalen Rose, Juwan Howard. Sounds like the entire University of Michigan backcourt. Jimmy King and Ray Jackson will be on that to give you a little bit of what is going to happen, and they're going to do those two games. Illinois, Connecticut. I personally, I like what Dan Hurley's got. I mean, Connecticut is battle tested, and there's something to be said for playing in a Final Four and you've been there before. Illinois has not,
Yeah,
and That's not to take anything away from the Fighting Illini, and I don't want their fans chasing me down the street. But that being said, just like your theory of the case, which is don't ever bet against Tom Izzo, when you get to a Final Four, I'm not deviating far from Mr. Hurley. Um, they just seem to find a way to win.
Yeah,
They
and
found a way with 19 points to come back on Duke.
yeah, come back on Duke, the number one overall seed in the tournament.
Mm-hmm,
And then you look at Dan Hurley, and we've talked about it before on the show, but
mm-hmm,
you look at Dan Hurley's resume over the past 4 years, it's national championship, lost in the round of 32, but who did he lose to in the round of 32? Oh, it was the eventual national champion,
national champion,
Florida.
right?
And not to mention, I'm fairly certain that was the closest game that Florida played in the entire
It
tournament.
was. It was.
Um, so you look at his track record, and now he's back in the Final Four. It's proved out what he's been able to do. You also have, you talk about Dan Hurley and having been to the Final Four,
Mm-hmm,
having had that success here recently in the past.
mm-hmm,
He's also got a player on his roster that's been to the Final
right.
Four, Alex Caravan. He's talking
Right.
about him as a second coach. Like that's a significant advantage.
Mm-hmm,
I'm not saying that Illinois can't match up with them or won't match up with them. I still
mm-hmm,
expect it to be a good game, but it's a situation where those are real and legitimate advantages
mm-hmm,
that you cannot ignore for UConn. Like
mm-hmm.
having been there, not only the coach, but a player on the roster in the day and age where everybody's turning over. And in a sport like basketball where you only have to play 1 year and then you can go to
Mm-hmm.
the NBA.
What's also interesting, I mean, they're playing obviously in Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, is a lot of these guys, certainly the guys in Illinois, have never played in what in essence is a basketball court on a football field. Okay, the perception, it sounds funny, but I used to do games at the Silver Dome when the Pistons were playing there, and guys who came into the Silver Dome had trouble getting their getting depth as to where the when they're getting, because they're used to having a bleachers behind the basket.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, these are temporary bleachers, but they don't seat many people.
Yeah.
So it's difficult when you're taking a shot in a dome to try to gauge, how far away from the basket am I? I mean, and a lot of that is a problem. But I think obviously, having been there, Connecticut does have an advantage in that regard.
Yeah, and it's something where your depth perception,
Hmm.
maybe not something that people think about in terms of changing venue to venue,
Hmm.
even
It does. Yeah.
stadium to stadium. It matters. You go back
Yeah.
to 2020, people were kind of like when you looked at the NBA and the bubble they played in. Some of
Hmm.
these guys were just going off. Like T.J. Warren hadn't scored 50 in a game before ever, and now he's dropping 50 in the bubble. People are like, what's going on? And they come out and they talk about it afterwards. They're like, in the bubble, it was significantly easier to get your
Mhm.
depth. Like you could see the background that the baskets had. It changed things. You were able to get a little better grasp on it
Sure.
versus being in an arena. So it's something that can play a big factor for a team if you're not able to adjust to it.
Right. And you see people missing shots, and you're like, well, those are shots that go in regular season. How can they miss? Well, they're again to your point about depth perception. They don't know. I mean, they're
Yeah.
looking like, okay, well, let's try from here and see if it goes. One of the things that I heard Jay Billis this week, and Jay was talking about attending one of Hurley's practices, and he said the last drill that they do lasts 20 minutes, and nobody shoots the ball. They just pass it back and forth, and the whole concept is to get in a position where you're always square to the basket. He wants everybody square to the basket because if you have to take the last shot, he doesn't want you not in a position where you can't take the last shot. Ironically, that's exactly what happened to get them into the Final Four. Was a kid standing there, had a direct look straight on at the basket, and that's where you see the practice proves off.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that's good practice just for, obviously paid off for them there at that
Sure.
scenario It's good practice for end of shot clock
Mhm.
situations. You always want to be square,
Right.
especially when you're thinking about situations where maybe the defense isn't set, stuff like that. You're able to catch
Right.
and shoot and kind of almost steal good looks
Mhm.
if you position correctly.
Right.
And so that makes a world of sense in terms of why they would be drilling it.
Plus, if you're square, right, and you don't shoot, you're still looking directly at the basket.
Yeah,
So if there's one of your bigs that's available, you go inside.
yeah,
So I again the fact that they play 20 minutes and don't shoot the ball, but just pass it around and stand, getting square proves that was proven this week that that's not a bad idea. Um,
yeah.
so that's going to be a tough one. Um, you like UConn or Illinois?
You
And
know,
I have no idea what the point spread is. Don't really
yeah,
care.
yeah. I would assume it's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of like 1.5.
It's going to be big. Yeah.
I'll be able to pull it up here in just a second.
Mhm.
I'll be honest. I didn't pick Illinois to make it this far. I thought
Mhm.
Illinois was. To be honest, I just didn't have them valued as a Final Four team. I
Right.
was clearly wrong on that.
Oh, I was
Um,
too.
yeah, clearly wrong on that. Did not give them their due credit and
Mhm.
what they were able to do. Yeah, the spread right now is Illinois is a 1.5 point favorite.
Okay.
Um, so that line opened at 2.5. It's moved down a point, but it's something where now I almost feel like cautious against picking against them because I've doubted
Mhm.
them throughout the entire tournament. But I am going to go back to what I know, and what I know is Dan Hurley has been the best coach in this tournament for
Mhm.
4 years now. Like
Yep.
you look at what he did, even in the year that he lost and the way they
Mhm.
lose. It's like it's just impossible for me to pick against a guy with the track record that he has right now.
Mhm. Well, I the night cap is 8:30, same networks, TBS, TNT, true. And I I picked Arizona to win, and I'm gonna have to stick with them because I haven't seen anything that leads me to believe they can't.
Yeah, I picked Arizona to win the national championship as well.
Mhm.
Just think about that Big 12 and the
Mhm.
perceived depth that we thought we had at the top of it. Obviously,
Right.
that didn't really prove throughout the tournament. As much as the Big Ten. So maybe it's something where you kind of switch your thinking and go,
Mhm.
well, Michigan was the class of the conference who had the most
Mhm.
teams in the Sweet 16, supposedly the best. Now what you believe to be
Mhm.
the highest ranked teams and really the
Mhm.
best, most deep conference. Maybe you reevaluate. But they're my national championship pick, so I'm not going to pick against them until they were to obviously lose a game. But they've made
So,
it up to this point. It'd be dumb for me to jump off the ship now.
well, I mean, I have a great relationship with the University of Michigan. Used to do football games with them, basketball games with them, and so yeah, there's a lot of love for the folks in Ann Arbor. That being said, um, I just don't think they have as athletic a team as Arizona does. I don't know that there is an athletic team in college basketball that's any more athletic than Arizona.
Yeah, it's very possible. And really, we sat here and we talked about the size and how this
Mhm.
was the toss.
Right.
There's not many teams that can match up with Michigan size wise. Arizona can match up with Michigan size
Right.
wise. They do have the ability to get on the
Mhm.
glass the same way that they do, something that Alabama couldn't do.
Right.
Something that really none of these teams have been able to do to Michigan. And so now they get the opportunity to face the level competition in terms of their height.
Okay. Well, we both got Arizona in that one, but let's check second. And tonight's the NCAA women's tournament with the Final Four, and we are talking about as chalky as you can get. 7 o'clock tonight on ESPN. Ryan Rucco, Rebecca Lobo, South Carolina, Connecticut. Jesus, I mean Gino Oriana. Give me a break. I mean, they just keep rolling out there. The nightcap is Texas at and UCLA. UCLA is a I I'll tell you, I really like. I like this UCLA team. It's they're playing well. But you can't overlook South Carolina, Connecticut, and Texas because they're good too. But I don't. It's one of these things where a coin flip in either of the games. Those are four very well balanced teams. Dave Matt's having a little trouble there with his mic. There you go.
Sorry, there we go.
Yeah.
Had to step away for a second. All right, yeah, all chalk in the women's tournament. You'd have to assume that Gino Auriemma, they appear to be the odds-on favorite.
Mm-hmm.
I struggle because I think there's an argument to be made for this women's tournament, and when you look at chalk, that maybe you go, well, yeah, we've got the best teams, but I think there's also an argument to be made that it's a little less exciting when you have all chalk. I know I didn't like. I've not been a big fan. I didn't love it last year when the men's tournament had all one seeds. It's not my favorite thing in the world. I like a little bit of the chaos and really the madness of March, but really when you have Auriemma and Dawn Staley going against each other, that's the best head coaching matchup you can possibly get in women's college basketball.
Yeah, the one thing I think that has always felt to me why would they end up with chalk, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the first round is played on the home court of the high seeds. So, it's going to be tough when you roll into, to South Carolina, you roll into Pauley Pavilion, in UCLA, and, you can't help but be the home team can't help but have a great advantage over the visitors.
Yeah, no, it definitely it takes away your ability to have those upsets as much.
Mm-hmm.
Like home court advantage is so big,
Mm-hmm.
especially in this elimination format. I
Right.
mean, you can. I, I don't think it's proved out as much, but think about the first round of the college football playoff a couple of
Mm-hmm.
times we've had it.
Right.
Home teams, generally speaking,
Mm-hmm.
favorites. Like they've won the majority of their games when they play at home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm just trying to think. I think really I could be wrong, but I think the only loss that a home team has suffered was this past year when Alabama beat Oklahoma in the college
Right.
football playoff.
Right. You're right.
That's how valuable it is in terms of these teams are sometimes they're fairly evenly matched. If you have an 8-9 matchup in that first round, what would normally be maybe a 1.5 point spread, maybe now it's bumped to 3.5, 4.5 because you have
Mm-hmm.
home court. Like it is that much of an advantage.
I don't think there's any question, and I would hope that in the future they will the NCAA will figure out a way to balance that out a bit. From that standpoint. Well, we're going to be talking golf here in just a second, but let's chat about something that you and I have had some fun with in the past. I couldn't believe my ears, which is hard to believe. Bruce Pearl comes out and says that he's very much against nepotism, and I'm like, didn't you literally leave Auburn so your son could be the coach? How in God's name is it possible that he can sit there and argue that he's not for nepotism? Because they were talking to him about what would happen with Patino. If Patino left St. John's, would his son be the logical choice? And it's like, and I would think he'd be the logical choice. But anyway, Bruce Pearl's like, no, you can't do that. That's nepotism isn't a good thing. It's like, okay, well, if it's not a good thing, then why the hell was it a good thing for your son?
Are we sure this wasn't posted 2 days ago on April Fool's? I mean,
Yeah.
If those are the words that came out of his mouth, like what he said on national television that he helped his son get the job.
Right.
He said on national television that he was rooting for them to get in the tournament because he was his son.
Right.
Like, This is the pot calling the kettle black if I've ever heard it. Good God. I mean, I feel like the experiment of having Bruce Pearl on TV has been good for ratings in a sense to where TNT has maybe gotten. I mean, they're just thankful that they found something that generates clips the same way inside the NBA
Right, as
for
right,
them. Yeah,
right.
but I mean, good God, it's like he's not thinking before he's opening his mouth, which and maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's a reason that ratings are, maybe
Well,
that's.
it got him in trouble as a coach for many times, but you
But
know,
I mean, holy shit, are you kidding me?
I heard it and I thought, well, wait a minute. No, wait a minute. Let me look this. Let me go back and check and make sure I heard what I heard. And darn, I'll tell you, that was right there. I'm thinking, man, come on, Bruce. I mean, I don't think there's a coach. I mean, I was around Ray Meyer when Joey took over at DePaul. I mean, there's eh, unless this guy is a total idiot, um, no one. If you follow the team, you're like, okay, well, he paid his dues. The father's leaving. The son, I mean, Georgetown Georgetown when John left and John the third came in was a total disaster. It
Yeah,
hasn't been any better since John left, frankly.
yeah,
Um, and that didn't work. Um, there are places where it has, but for the most part, it hasn't. And there's a reason for that. But at the end of the day, for Bruce to say what Bruce said just flummoxed me. I'm like, oh, God.
yeah. And I think there's a reason that it doesn't work too. Like you have to go through and like I don't think that Bobby Hurley really probably went out and I'm sure he helped them a little bit trying like in getting their jobs, but I highly doubt that Bobby Hurley just handed, either one of his sons a job. Like
Right.
that's just not something, and they were both successful. Obviously, you see what Dan's doing now. But this thing where like Stephen Pearl didn't cut his teeth the same way a lot of
Mhm.
other coaches did. He didn't have to cut his teeth the same way that a lot of other coaches did. And
Mhm.
I think in a lot of ways, you can have stuff fall through the cracks where you're
Mhm.
not going to be successful in year one. Like,
Mhm.
yes, you learned under your dad who was extremely successful,
Mhm.
but you're not him, right? Like
Mhm.
that's just not something that's going to happen. You can draw as many comparisons as you want to, but you have different experiences coaching, you have different ideas coaching.
Mhm.
Your parents do, and that's just like life in general, much
Mhm.
less about your job that both of you are doing, not to mention doing at a high level. Like I have no
Mhm.
doubt that Stephen Pearl can get a head coaching job at another place. I'm just
Mhm.
questioning whether or not it should have been Auburn first, basically.
Mhm.
So I understand the argument against nepotism. It's just insane to hear the mouth it's coming out of.
The I remember when Mike Shanahan came to DC and he was looking for an offensive coordinator, and his son Kyle was the OC in Houston at the time, working for Gary Kubiak, and he'd worked on everybody else. He had never worked with his dad the entire time that he was learning to coach, never once. So when Mike hired, you know, his son to coach to be the OC, they asked him, "Well, what brought you to bring Kyle Shanahan on?" He goes, "Well, you want the truth?" And basically, everybody said yes. His mother said if I didn't hire him, he was never going to speak to me again. But that worked out. I mean, for both Mike and for Kyle.
Hmm.
In that case, does
Yeah,
it work out all the time? No, it doesn't. But you
yeah.
know, it,
Honestly, I'd give Mike a lot of credit there. Like if Bruce had came out and been like, "Yeah, my wife said she was going to divorce me if I didn't give him the job."
right.
Honestly, fair enough. Go ahead. I like that explanation better than the one that we've been given from him thus far.
And I'll tell you what, with regard to Mike and knowing Mike and his wife, I'm absolutely certain that that's what she said.
I
It's like
I don't doubt
you're
it.
bringing Kyle here. He's proven, and to be fair to Kyle, he had proven he was a pretty damn good OC under Frank Wright, who Frank knows offenses as well.
Yeah.
Um, so
Working the different job like that,
yeah,
I think that's what's important. And I
mhm,
look, I'm sitting here, I don't know Stephen Pearl's like work history. I
right,
He may have worked at different places
right,
before he became the lead assistant under his dad.
mhm,
He but for my knowledge of it is pretty much that's kind of where he made his hay there under his dad. And it's tough when that's really where you're like that's who you're judging it against, because as a I'm sure as parents you want to believe in your kids and believe that they can do the job and you believe that
mhm.
they've done a good job. But I think it can give you some rose colored glasses sometimes when looking at your kids versus looking at other candidates.
Yeah. I'm looking real quick here. He was a coach at Nichols, well, at Nicollet High School in Glendale, Wisconsin. Uh, then he went to coach the Milwaukee Panthers. I'm not sure where the hell that is. Oh wait, that's also a high school.
Oh, okay.
And then West High School in Knoxville, Tennessee. Um, and basically the only job he had on the college level, I think, is Auburn. Yep, that's it.
Yeah, and that Knoxville, Tennessee. When did he have that job?
He played at Tennessee.
He played at Tennessee
Yeah,
while his dad was there. I'm assuming.
I
Uh,
assume so.
I was more. I
In
didn't.
101 games for volunteers over 4 seasons after redshirting his freshman season.
Yeah, I just didn't. You said that he had coached at a high school there in Knoxville.
Yeah, hmm
Yeah, I
that's
didn't.
after he graduated.
Yeah, I didn't think the Pearls were. Depending on the time frame, I didn't know if the Pearls were still allowed in Knoxville at that time. I thought it was a little surprising. Um, Yeah, no, and that's where your problem there lies. Is like it's high school basketball coach, right?
Hmm.
And
Right.
it's a high school basketball coach that bounced around to a couple different spots.
Hmm.
And now he's gone from high school basketball coach to lead assistant at Auburn to head coach
Hmm.
at Auburn. Like
Right.
that's you rise up the ranks pretty fast and you understand why. And so you definitely can see why there was stuff that fell through the cracks, why
Hmm.
Auburn's playing in the NIT instead of the NCAA tournament, right?
Right. Hmm.
No, they're playing for an NIT title, but it's still a situation where it's not the expectation that Auburn has, and that
Right.
it is now in large part due to Bruce Pearl,
Hmm.
um, in fairness, but he wasn't able to come in and just continue things on, which I think is what people just kind of assumed was going to happen.
Right.
And now he's facing the media backlash and the consequences. But
Hmm.
for that as well, his dad did not help with that by any stretch of the imagination.
For all we know, right? Stephen Pearl can go out and lead that team to SEC championships, to Final Fours. Who knows? Okay,
Yeah,
so I don't want to be unfair to him, um, but you have to, in a case where you don't want to be, you snarky to the kid, to have a father who says he doesn't believe in nepotism, who basically went out and literally, you know, gave his son the job.
yeah.
Um, we'll see. I mean, we'll absolutely see how it works out. But uh,
Well,
yeah,
I
go ahead.
think, and I don't think that he would. But man, if you're Stephen Pro, you got to be sitting back going, "Dad, shut up!
Right,
Like, stop talking. This is not helping me in any
right.
way, shape, or form. This is just
There's 70 teams out there. Talk about any
yeah,
one of them. Do not talk about mine.
yeah. You had 64 teams make that tournament.
Right,
And somehow, no, 68 teams. You had
right,
68 teams make that tournament. And somehow we continue to land on my team that's playing in the
right,
NIT. How does this happen? Why do you keep talking about us? Please stop, for the love of God.
right. you're saving you're basically killing me.
Yeah, you're
Um,
causing me more grief than thanks for the job. I guess you get some runway when you give me the
right.
job, but geez, you're making it a headache now.
Uh, Think about recruiting. My God, it'd be terrible. Every coach that's looking for the same guy that he is going, well, he just got the job because his dad.
Yeah, I mean that's an easy negative recruiting
So
aspect to
it's
take.
like, whoops, man.
Hey,
Oh,
he got the job under from his dad. Like, look at where they were last year. Look what they
yeah.
did this year. You
Hmm.
think that's going to get better next year? Like, that's the recruiting pitch right
Yeah.
there.
It ain't. Mhm.
Yeah, is as long as you can match NIL, that's going to win every day. Is
Yep.
like there's no guarantees that he's making this thing better. Like, yeah,
No.
he might, but we know how he got this job.
Mhm.
We saw what happened, from a Final Four to the NIT tournament. Like
Right.
that's a significant drop right there. Who's
That's
to say
falling
that
off
they
a
don't
cliff.
suffer
Yeah.
another drop going into next year?
Right. All right. Well, let's move on. We have some golf here this weekend. It's the last weekend before we get to the Masters. And what's up? Is this which one is this? Is a Valero? Or where are we this week?
Yeah, the Valero Texas Open
Okay.
in TPC San Antonio. They're
Uh-huh.
on the Oaks course. They're in at TPC San Antonio. Yeah, it's the last opportunity for some of these guys to earn their way into the Masters.
Mhm.
Obviously, the top 50 in the OWGR, that was the cutoff last week. That's no longer an option. So for a guy like Michael Bjornsson, who made his way up to number 54 last week in the OWGR, it doesn't matter if he goes out here and gives you a top 10 and moves into number 50 or 49th, whatever, in the OWGR after this tournament. It's not going to matter. The field's set in terms of that. The only way in now is by way of winning. There
Mhm.
are some guys, just talked about Thor Bjornsson. Jeez.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah. So just got so he is not qualified. He would need a win to qualify for the Masters. He's a guy where it doesn't it might be a bit of a disappointment because he put himself in some really good positions
Mhm.
last couple of weeks to really be able to either win or go get what he needed in terms of his points to make the
Mhm.
Masters. But he's also a guy that's very young. He made it on the PGA Tour through their accelerated program
Mhm.
based on his performance at Stanford while he was in college.
Mhm.
So he pretty much just skipped the Corn Ferry Tour entirely.
Mhm.
Um, so he's young. I would say it may be a little bit disappointing because it felt like it was right there for him, but
Mhm.
not something where he's going to beat himself up. He'll be in the Masters next year. I'd be surprised if he wasn't.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, but there are guys out there where you've got some different stories about. You go big one, Tony Finau.
Mhm.
He's played in every Masters since 2018. I believe he's started in 33 straight major championships.
Wow.
All of those streaks are on the line if he does not win at the Valero because he's
Mhm.
not currently qualified for the Masters tournament. Um, a guy like Will Zalatoris, who's battled injury, obviously a big name
Mhm.
going back to his time. I mean, he was a prodigy. He's battled back injuries for these past
Mhm.
few years. And he's back. He says he's feeling healthy. He's playing better golf. You could see that through his play yesterday.
Mhm.
When the tournament ended, the lead was 7 under. Finau sat at 6 under. Zalatoris sat at 5 under. So they were both well on the pace. They have yet to get started this afternoon. Um, Lead's moved up to 10 under. Robert McIntyre is now holding that lead. Um, so there's going to be competition. There's obviously ground for them to make up, but this is a place that Tony Finau's played well at in the past, and obviously you've seen the way Zalatoris has played. He's got some
Mhm.
form back, and so two of the guys that you're kind of hoping for, rooting for, because you
Mhm.
want to. I think with this tournament, obviously you can't be upset no matter who wins. Going to be glad for him. But
Mhm.
it's one of those things where it is an opportunity to expand that field out one
Mhm.
more if you have a guy who's not already qualified win this thing.
Right. Well, it'll be fun. There's a lot of good stuff going on this weekend. Okay, everyone out there, whether you're celebrating Passover or Easter, we wish you nothing but a lovely, peaceful weekend. enjoy yourselves. Don't overeat. Don't eat too many chocolate eggs if you're out there from that standpoint. And we will see you back on Monday when we will know who, we'll know who the champion is in the women's tournament. And we
Mm-hmm.
will find out who the two survivors are in the men's tournament. So a lot of fun going over the weekend. Y'all take care of yourselves. We will do our best to be back here on Monday. For Matt, I'm Jim. Have a good day, guys. Yep.